Today on Detroit Muscle, Mark makes some alterations to the front of Project Sydewinder, making sure our new wheels and tires are gonna fit. Plus, we add some more body modifications to our '85 Buick Project Street Regal, giving it some much-needed style.
Hey everybody, welcome to Detroit Muscle. Today we're working on our two 80s projects. I've got my sights set on our 81 Mustang Cobra Project Sydewinder. Most recently, we dressed up the front end with some new lights and some aero. But we've worked this thing over for a while, top to bottom, inside and out, and even under the hood. One thing we haven't touched though is the rear, so I've got some flare for that. Speaking of flare, we've got these huge wheel openings here because we added these fender flares a while back. So we've got some wheels and tires to fill those up. We're gonna be unveiling those, getting them on the car today. Trust me, you wanna see them. We may have to do a bit of trimming, but hey, it's part of the fun, right?
That's it. Now, Mark's Mustang's getting dangerously close to hitting the highway, and me with my Buick, well, I got a long road to hoe. But a little later on, we're gonna address a few body mods as this thing needs. One's gonna be an upgrade, one's gonna be a repair.
Well, being a kid in the 80s and being into cars, there were three vehicles I was really into. Bigfoot, the Lamborghini Countach, and the Saleen Mustangs. It's safe to say I'll never be able to afford two of those, but I've had several Mustangs in my time, and my favorites are still those four-eyed Saleens, and a lot of those had a mesh-style wheel on them. So I used that for my inspiration for wheels for Sydewinder. These are the LS3Cs from Forgeline. They've taken that iconic mesh design and modernized it with a concave center profile to create a wheel with elegant looks, timeless character, and plenty of room for brake fitment. It's a custom made-to-order three-piece wheel that's produced from forged 6061 T6 aluminum centers and heat-treated rim shells. They're assembled with stainless steel ARP fasteners and fully customizable in size, fitment, and finish. We went with a square setup, and ours measure 18 by 10 with a 6-inch backspace. We chose the dark transparent smoked face so you can see all of that nice machine work, as well as satin black inner and outer lips. And since we've gone through all this work to make our Mustang track capable and to complement these high-end wheels, we needed a set of tires that were up to the task as well. So we went with the Hoosier R7. This is a DOT compliant R compound tire built specifically for autocross and open track use. It has a soft, sticky compound for maximum traction and a W speed rating of 168 miles per hour. We went with a set of 285/30/18s, a massive size for our Foxbody, especially on the front. These are gonna help our Cobra steer and brake at its maximum potential out on the track. All of this stuff is made in the USA, from the tires to the wheels to those ARP bolts to hold the wheels together. You better believe we like that. Just need to get them on the car now. I'll put the wheel on the car, get the lug nuts started by hand, and tighten them down. All right, let's see if this thing clears. Good that way. When we go back that way, it hits. It hits this fender extension, actually the fender itself. Now, I'm gonna have to make a cut, so I'll make a mark and cut it, and then we'll drop it down on the ground so this wheel and tire is at right height, and then we'll check it. Here we're gonna use the tire as a guide when making our mark. Now we can trim the fender. Using our body saw allows us to fit in tight areas and make quick work of the fender. Let's get it on the ground. With our car on the ground, we can turn the wheels at ride height, making sure nothing else touches or hits the tire. All right, plenty of room. Well, I know what you're thinking. We just put those race tires on our car, and this is a street car. How are we gonna drive it on the street? Well, we've got a solution for that. We're actually gonna install these G-Max RSs from General Tire. This is their newest ultra high performance street tire. It'll provide the most grip in both wet and dry conditions, and it'll handle everything that our Mustang will throw at it on the street. But those are gonna have to wait until later after we get our Mustang tested out on the track. We'll just dismount those R compounds, get the street tires on, and hit the roads. Well, we still have more to do. I gotta get that left front fender trimmed, get the other three wheels and tires on, and I got something special planned out back. If you've got a Survivor or you're doing a full restoration like this beautiful 69 Camaro, you're gonna need seals and weather stripping. Problem is, you go into the catalog and order all that stuff piece by piece, you may not get everything you need, and not only that, you're not sure about the quality. Well, a solution to those problems is Steele rubber products, and we've got Danny here from Steele to talk about their products, including the parts here for that 69 Camaro. What makes your stuff different?
So all of our parts are designed from original, so they're going to fit and perform just like they did from the factory, but we use more modern, higher quality materials for the rubber, for the brass cores, so it lasts a really long time.
And you sell all of this stuff as kits, right?
Yeah, so we have kits for your window felts, or if you're doing a paint kit, all the trim, bumpers and weather stripping, and all that is going to be in our year, make, model specific catalogs.
Cool. And if you need something custom or you need something universal, they've got stuff for that as well. Just go to their website, steelerubber.com.
Stay with us. Mark adds an upgrade to the rear of Project Sydewinder, giving it flair and performance.
Hey folks, welcome back. We're working on our 81 Mustang Cobra Project Sydewinder. We got the wheels and tires on it. And I went ahead and trimmed up that left front fender. That way we can turn the steering wheel full lock left and right without any clearance issues, even at ride height. But before we roll this thing off the lift for the final time, there's one thing I want to address, and that's the appearance of the rear here. Basically stock. I mean, other than this patina paint job we did a while back, we've even got the stock taillights here. Most people ditch those for the later model ones. It even has the stock spoiler. Now this is a rare option, so I want to keep it. This was only available in the 79 Pace car, 79 to 81 Cobras, and the 82 GT. After that, it went away forever, so I wanted to preserve it. It's part of the personality of the car. But I want to dress it up a little bit and give it some function with this piece right here that we got from Scott Rod Fabrications. They made this specifically for our car. It's the same company that made that splitter and all those block-off panels as well. But now, just need to get it bolted on. Oh yeah, that's gonna look pretty good. Hey Tommy, will you give me a hand, please? We're gonna string a line of masking tape all the way across here where we need to drill our holes to mount that new wing to our spoiler. We're doing that for a few reasons. One, this is nice and bright, and that'll be easy to see where we make our marks. Another reason is because this tape is gonna be a buffer. You go to drill those holes, if you do it too quick, the head of the drill will scratch the paint. Instead, it'll hit this first.
Also, if you were working on a steel surface, whenever you go to dig into it, those curlicues coming out, well, they can scratch it as well, and that tape can be a lifesaver.
You know what I mean?
Sure thing. Where do you want it?
Just above that pocket.
You want to measure this thing out, or are we going to eyeball it?
I think if it looks straight, it is straight. All of our holes covered up by that tape.
Yeah.
How far are you outside that pocket?
I'm right on the hole.
Okay, come my way about a 1/16 of an inch.
I'm flush with the edge of that hole.
Okay, back toward you then.
Okay, I'm
Right.
about.
That looks good. Same amount of space up top too, so it curves around.
Sure.
All right, mark it. All right,
You want to drill? You want me to?
I'll do it. We'll start by drilling our pilot hole using an 1/8 inch bit. Followed by our 25/64 for our actual holes.
We're going to attach the spoiler on Sydewinder just like we did on Street Regal using these little threaded inserts. They're a cinch to install and they're perfect for an application like this. When installing threaded inserts, you want to make sure it clamps to the material and doesn't move. If it does, just give it a couple more squeezes with the gun.
Now it's time to get some Threadlocker on these bolts to mount our spoiler on. Now, we've used blue and red Permatex Threadlocker here in the shop quite a bit, but you may not know that these have diameter recommendations. The blue, for instance, is good for 1/4 inch up through 3/4 inch. We have 1/4 bolts here, so we could use that, but Permatex makes a low strength purple, which is good up to 1/4 inch. We're gonna err on the low strength because these things have an Allen head. They may be difficult to get off. We don't wanna round that off and have to drill them out later. I'm gonna put the bolts in, but not tighten them down. We wanna make sure everything lines up and is gonna fit right. I like it. Nice and aggressive.
That's pretty snazzy.
Then we can go back and finish securing the bolts. Whoa, that is impressive, and I can't wait to get old Sidewinder out on the track. Hey, we're working on our 81 Cobra project, and we're tidying up a bunch of stuff under the hood, you know, the stuff we normally don't show you, like plumbing, wiring. Tommy's actually making the spark plug wires right now. There's one thing here that we need to address on this particular car, and that's the vacuum. Now, this is a great engine. They built it down at engine power, over 600 horsepower, 427 Windsor. It's got that single plane intake on it, though, and there's no vacuum source on it. Now, we've got a vacuum advanced distributor, and we need a vacuum reference for our fuel pressure regulator. So we need to tap into there. I'm gonna show you how to do that now. Well, the best place to do it is gonna be right above the runners here where there's a common vacuum source, right here near where the carburetor mounts. I don't wanna do it on this side because that's where our throttle linkage is. Don't wanna interfere with that. This other side over here is where the fuel lines are gonna be. Don't wanna interfere with that either. And back here, well, it's just hard to get to. So the best candidate is right here in the front. I'll remove the tape off of the intake and put a piece of tape on the front and mark the spot where we wanna drill. We wanna put ours right here in the center. Then we can stuff some shop towels down into the runners to make sure to fill the holes completely. Then we'll make a bowl of a few more towels to line the plenum. We'll do this to keep any metal shavings from falling into our engine. Now those rags will do the trick, but even still, any shavings falling down in there are too close for comfort. So I want to prevent that at all. And I'm going to do that with my bit and this grease right here. I'm just going to dip my drill bit down in there, and that grease goes down into all the grooves of the drill bit. And as I drill, it'll pick up the shavings. Make sure that you cover the entire bit with grease. When drilling, just keep it slow and steady because you don't want any metal to fly into the intake. Now we'll use our big bit to make the final hole. All we have to do is use our tap to thread our hole for the fitting. You'll need to use grease on this as well. Using tape makes quick work of any other metal shavings that may have fallen around the intake. All right, well, I got my brass tee now. I can screw this right in here, put my nipples on it, run my vacuum hoses.
Don't go away. Project Street Regal is going under the knife to give it a grand effect.
Hey y'all, glad you made your way back. We're steadily trying to remove the mall effect off of our Buick here, and we're making some pretty decent progress. We got the vinyl top off of it, a custom rear spoiler, and some fancy bumpers for each end. Now this car had a couple of performance brothers from back in the day, the Buick Grand National and the GNX. And I'm a big fan of both of those cars, so I want to take some of the body options that they had and add them onto our car. Now, one of those modifications is relatively simple. The other one is going to require some cutting. So what we're going to do is install these pieces that we got from Original Parts Group. We've got a full set of fender flares and some side scoops. Now to install these, it's pretty straightforward. They have a bolt-on design, so let's go ahead and get these on and out of the way. We'll start out by removing the chrome trim pieces around the wheel openings and bottom of the quarter. Then we can put our flare into place and clamp it down. These things just screw right to the inner fender well lip, and just like that, they're installed. We've got our flares on, now it's time for us to install our louvers. Now to do this, it's not really all that complicated, but it does require us to cut a big old hole here in the side of this fender. Now with the kit, it comes with an instruction sheet that gives you a template of what you're gonna have to trim out. So let's go ahead and cut this out of here and we can get started. For placement on our template, it's supposed to be 3/4 of an inch down from this body line, and this corner here is supposed to be 2 inches from this edge. We need to make some measurements and then we can tape it into place. Luckily for us, the lower pinstripe is dead on 3/4, so we just need to mark the back. Now we can place our template on the fender and trace around it. To cut out my hole, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a drill, make me a couple of holes here in all the corners, and then follow that up with my body saw and cut out that piece. Now whenever you're going to cut something like this out, you need to keep in mind your tooth count on your blade. You want to choose the correct blade for the material that you're working on. Now we're cutting steel and both of these are for cutting metal, but the one here is 32 tooth count per inch and this one is a 14. This is really nice for cutting sheet metal because the teeth are so much closer together. With this one here that's far more coarse, if you were to try to use it, you could actually damage the panel. After punching our holes, it's time to let some metal chips fly. Oh, and like your kindergarten teacher told you, stay inside the lines. If you were installing these onto a painted car, you want to come back and touch up this raw edge because you want to prevent it from rusting. Now with our car, we still got to do all the paint work and all that stuff, so we're just going to stick this thing in there to see what it looks like. Oh yeah, it looks pretty cool. Now I just need to do the other side.
Coming up, we show you the cure for peekaboo rust.
Hey y'all, thanks for hanging with us. We got our louvers and flares on and this Buick's looking pretty killer. A while back we removed our vinyl top and sanded off all that goo. And up under that top is the seam where the quarter panel and the roof join, and they fill it in with some plastic or even lead depending on the age of your car. And whenever we took all that off, I found a pretty common problem. That would be rust up under the filler. What happens is moisture gets under there, it starts to corrode and pushes the filler off. So all this has to come off to see how bad everything is. We gotta get this shiny stuff out of the way. We don't wanna mess it up because we'll be using it later down the road. Grinding time! This is what I was talking about. You can see the evidence of some rust all the way back here, but from the visual that we seen before we started grinding, it was just right in this area. This is exactly why you gotta pull this stuff out to see what's under there. Our 36 grit disc chews right through this old plastic. Don't get crazy here with your air tool and keep the RPMs down. We're just trying to get the filler off, not grind holes in the roof. A wire brush does a good job as well, really well in those nooks and crannies. Now with everything all cleaned up, the next step we're going to do is fully weld both of these joints. Keep in mind that you're welding near a big flat panel, the roof. So spacing out your welds and letting it cool a bit is a good idea. And if you have to do it a couple of times, it's no big deal. Now a quick massage with a grinder, we're ready to move on. With everything welded and prepped, it's time to spread on some filler, smooth it out. On a joint like this, I prefer to use the stronger aluminum reinforced filler. Once it's all mixed up, it can be applied directly to our metal surface. When using filler, make sure to squish it into the seam to minimize the chance of an air pocket. After it hardens, sand with some 36 on a hand block. We'll wipe it a second time to get our desired shape and switch to some 80 grit for a smoother finish. Well, that didn't take much effort at all, and it put us one step closer to getting some shiny paint put on Street Regal. If you guys have any questions about what you've seen on today's show, go to PowerNationTV.com.